You're listening to Edge Radio TV. The views and opinions expressed in this program are that of the host or guests, and not the Edge Radio Network or its advertisers or affiliates.
Welcome to Talk About Unity.
Hey.
I'm Richard, and my co-host Carlin are here. And we're here to inspire you, enlighten you, and have a good time as we come together. Listen, we are on Edge Radio Network. There's been some great programs that already happened today, going to happen all week long. But the thing about the Edge is here we are and Talk About Unity. Don't push me because I'm close to the Edge.
And I'm just saying, just left the scene, and so we're now entering the scene to talk about unity.
Talk about unity. There's all kinds of really cool stuff that's happening in America and in the world today.
I don't know if it's all cool, but it's a lot of stuff.
Not all of it's cool. You know, we got this Mr. Como.
Oh my goodness, that's
Mr. Como, and you know of course we know from the Supreme Court. Was it the nominee and all the confirmation hearings that everybody needs to be believed and we have to take it serious? Okay, so I get that.
Hey, you know, so we're gonna get, as we talk about that, I was thinking about that because with our guest today, that might be one of the first questions we want to ask her. Yeah. Because that would be interesting to find out her spin on that whole thing. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's talk about that. What do you think they should do? I mean,
first, before anybody starts, he does not need to be Frankenstein in the tower and everybody come at him with pitchforks and swords. They need to find out what the evidence is and really take the witnesses serious and take them seriously and really make a decision based on that. Because right now, the last time I heard, the count is up to 7 women have come forward saying that they have been mistreated or treated inappropriately because of him. And man, you just in a position of leadership, you can't abuse that power. And so it looks like, and there's a lot of Democratic leaders that are really starting to jump in and say it's time to leave office. This current statistics this morning was, and of course it's down party lines almost completely, but it's starting to turn more towards it looks like he is going to go. Don't know for sure. But here's the numbers. 55% of the Democratic Party says leave the guy alone. The Republicans and independents is the number is up to 35%. No. I said that wrong. 55% of the non-Democrats said time to go. 35% of the Democratic Party said no, leave him alone.
But you had like the big Democrats saying he's got to go.
I know.
Schumer, Gillibrand, the mayor of New York. All these people are saying he's got to go. Yeah. We don't need to hear anything else. He's got to go.
Well, and I believe in innocent until proven guilty in all cases. Let the whole thing play out. Do the investigation and hear from the witnesses. Take the serious. But at the end of the day, if the evidence is presented and it's proven to be true, then he needs to be out of office.
All right, 2 more issues. One of them is the crisis that is or isn't at the border. Mm-hmm. We've got that one, and then we've got the impending Derek Chauvin, George Floyd trial that's happening. What's going to happen in each one of those things? Because I think almost both of those things, almost inevitably, anything that we talk about in all these national issues has something to do with our topic of the show today. Sure. And this thing about connection. So what do you think is going to happen down there with the kids down at the border that the president says is not a crisis at this time, but it's really drastic?
Well, being connected to A21, which is a organization that is designed and centered around protecting and rescuing people from the sex slave industry. There are so many people right now being kidnapped at the border, especially young children, which is a tragedy. This whole surge at the border, we're still dealing with COVID, and so you get that many people in that kind of close proximity, there's a good chance that there could be an outbreak there. And not only that, but there was the last administration was real big about border security, and it just seems as though we've kind of moved way away from that with the new administration. But our country is only as strong as our borders and our laws, and so this is a real mess. This is a real mess. Texas, as you know, has moved and taken some individual action as far as the state of Texas, and so we're going to see how that plays out. But we still have Arizona, we still have California, New Mexico. There's a chance that as Texas gets real strong on their border control, that it could probably, just like squeezing a balloon, it's a good chance that some of this is going to be shifted to the other states. And we don't wish harm on them, but we got to figure this out and really get back to let's be tough on our border security, be fair, and try to treat the people that are there in an honorable, loving, safe way. But at the end of the day, we all have borders, and they need to respect ours as well as we need to respect theirs.
And our third issue, of course, for today is the impending trial of Derek Chauvin, the George Floyd trial, as you might know it. And ahead of that trial, they've already had protests in areas around the country and burning of buildings once again in Portland recently. And so it brings the race issue again to the forefront. Yes. And I guess that's kind of, that's where it gets into our area, because I am, of course, the race guy. And what do you think is going to be the resolution of that whole issue?
As long as there's people stoking the fires, and as long as we have propaganda machines, and as long as we have police officers that aren't following protocol and training isn't what it needs to be, I think this issue is not going to go away. Well, it is going to go away if everybody moves towards a process of treating each other through the lens of its humanity. But there's some people that just want to stoke the fires. I don't know if you saw the settlement. Did you see the civil settlement? They came up this morning. $27 million. Wow. And don't even know where all that money's going to go. And does his family need restitution? Absolutely. He had family, and so but $27 million. I mean, that's setting a civil lawsuit precedent that it's precarious waters that we're treading into with all of that.
$27 million. All right, so those are our issues. And hey, what we're going to do, the magic of this show today with our guests is going to be to take all those issues and subsume them in something greater, which yes. I think what we have here is something greater. And so before we even go to the break, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest for today, and I'm excited to have her. I know her as Isabel the Mighty Hundt. Yep. She is a creator of the award-winning video, The Power of Connection. And I just want to run down some of the awards. This is amazing because, see, I knew her back before she was big time, I knew her when she was just a dreamer. And she was one of those people who not only dreamed, but made that dream come true, executed, and her award-winning video. And she, I'm going to name off a few of those awards: the Impact Docs Award, the Indie Film Fest Awards, the Istanbul Film Awards, the Depth and Field International Film Festival, and Accolade Global Film Competition in categories such as Best Educational, Liberation and Social Justice, Documentary Feature, and Inspirational and Contemporary Issues. So everything that you could talk about, she's basically covered it in this film. And we're going to see that as we talk about her on this show today. So I want to welcome our guest, the Mighty Hundt. Isabel Hundt is here with us today. We're glad to have you. Yeah, let's give a big round of applause. Great to have Isabel.
I think you're the only one who calls me the Mighty Hundt.
Because I'm the only one who knows how mighty you are. I'm the only one.
Well, thank you so much.
So we're glad to have you. We really are glad to have you. It's just, I think as we look, and Vince, I want to put up that power of connection so that people can see, as I talk about what this power of connection video really is about. this a documentary that investigated and answers many of the questions that we've been talking about as we went through each one of those things. And that's when I think about, as I watched her video, and so everybody, you've got to go out and watch this thing. They're going to find a ways that everybody can watch this thing eventually. But right now, you got to go out and you can support her film by paying the $10 fee. Get on it. You want to watch this thing because you're going to watch it and go, wow. It puts everything else that we talked about in context.
That's good.
Whether you're talking about the border crisis, whether you're talking about the race issues, it puts everything in context because and this is what I was arguing with somebody one day and I was going, but isn't there something at a higher level that would subsume everything else? That we could deal with this thing and not have to deal with the particulars of each one of these things. There's got to be something at that level. That's where we are.
Yep.
And it's this thing that, because I talked about it even before I knew Isabel, and Isabel was doing this power of connection thing, I continued always talking about connection and being able to connect with people. And so when I met Isabel, it was like the earth opened up and I was like, oh, that's amazing, because she was talking this thing about connection and she created this video. So that's what this video does. And, because
so
as she says in the description of it, it talks about as the world has been grappling with this for centuries, and especially in the last few years amidst the social crisis and all the injustice that's happening as we talk about racial inequality and all those things. And so that's the way I've really come to know Isabel personally. And at the end of the day, this is what I say about Isabel's approach to this issue of connection, is that regardless of what you think about her or what she says, her stuff works. I mean, her stuff works. I've seen her apply it in forums. I've seen her talk to people, and I've just seen the application. And so at the end of the day, that's what it is. We've got to have things that work. And this power of connection, it's a thing that works. And so we're going to just get really motivated. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and I'm going to let Isabel take the floor. She's going to tell you about her background, because I think she's also got such a unique background in the fact when we talk about the immigrant crisis or the crisis, whatever, she's not from America. And so she's got a unique viewpoint, which I think is very necessary at this time for someone who can look at America objectively, but yet have some solutions that would work.
That's
so
good.
I could sit here and talk for the next hour about Isabel and what I think, how this thing is going to work, but you're going to want to hear it from her, and we're going to get that as soon as we come back from the break. So hold all that good stuff that you're going to say, Isabel, and we're going to start the dialogue as soon as we take a commercial break and come back. So we're glad to have you, and you can see I'm really excited. So let's make it happen. We'll be right back on Talk About Unity after this break. Don't push me because I'm close to the edge.
I'm trying not to lose my head.
Hey, this is the Talk About Unity show where I bring the talk.
And I bring the unity.
And together we talk about unity. Unity is what matters.
Come on.
And right now in our country, that's what we've got to do. So we do that here at Talk About Unity on the Edge Radio Network. Be with us every week.
It's going to be awesome. It always is. And I tell you what, the more we seek first to understand, then be understood, we make progress.
And we like to do that. And that's why everybody's on the brink. We love what we do at Edge Radio because everybody's on the edge. We bring them back from the edge and we bring the unity. So we're just glad to Edge Radio Network every Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Talk About Unity, because here at Edge Radio Network, truth still matters.
Edge Radio TV is holding auditions for new show hosts. Are you a subject matter expert, professional, influencer, book author, thought leader, or business owner with an educational or motivational platform? Then we want to meet you. Send a link of some of your work to edgeradio20@gmail.com and be sure to put audition in the subject line. Join the Edge Radio TV family. Edge TV, because truth still matters.
And we're back to talk about unity here on the Edge Radio Network. We're pleased to have our guest for today, the mighty Isabel Hundt. And it's just really exciting time. And I've done a lot of talk and I've done a lot of intro. So I'm going to turn it over and begin the questioning. We've got our sociologist and film producer. She's a film producer now. That's what I call her.
That's awesome.
Isabel Hundt, who created The Power of Connection. So Isabel, I've talked enough. Give us your background. Who is Isabel Hundt? Tell us where you're from, what you do, and why you do it. And so we're really interested. I'm sure they're tired of hearing from me, so let's hear from you.
I never get tired hearing from you, but I don't know what other people think. So that is, I guess, their problem, right?
Yes.
Yes, I am. Well, you already said it. My name is Isabel Hundt. I'm originally from Germany. I moved to the U.S. 12 years ago now. Yeah, I think in April it's going to be 12 years. And it started out very interesting because I grew up in East Germany. So I grew up under communism when the walls still were up. Yes, I am that age. It may not look like it, but I am. But so I understand a little bit of what it means to be, within a wall, how you move, how you operate within that. Now, I was still quite young, but I had some awareness of that. Anyway, after the wall came down, I was, I think, 9 or 10. And at the age of 12, I had this really weird dream where I saw myself speaking in different language on a big stage. And I grew up being very introverted, never anywhere attention seeking whatsoever. I just would be the one sitting in the corner reading. That was my way of living. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't even know what language I was speaking in that dream. Over time, we had missionaries come to our church for outreach missions from international Bible schools. So there were a lot of Canadians and Americans coming to our little town. And that's when I really connected with American culture. Something inside of me just kept telling me, you will have to go there. And I'm like, there's no way. I like being home. I like the safety of my home. I'm not going there. Well, when I was 18, I don't know, something just totally clicked. I literally went from an introvert to a more extrovert. I started to travel more. And I also came to the US for the first time. I lived in DC as an au pair. And within just a very short amount of time, I picked up on the language very quickly to the point where people said, well, you sound like you're from Canada or somewhere with, Boston area. I'm like, no, actually, I am from Germany. And when I came here, it almost was like a voice telling me, now go and finish what you started. And I'm like, what did I start here? Like, there's nothing that I have never been here. And so I just trusted in that. And I'm like, okay, whatever that was, maybe there's some past lifetimes where I started something, where I did something. Who knows, who knows? And so I really felt at home. I felt like I was here before, I am at home. And so it took quite some time and a lot of ups and downs. And let me tell you, from an immigrant perspective, it is very, very difficult to be able to legally stay in this country. Mm-hmm. I almost got deported myself, having to go to Canada because I couldn't pay for college. And it was just a really wacky situation. And I already said to God, I'm like, I don't want to lie to be able to be here because it would defeat my purpose of being on a big stage. Mm-hmm. If I'm here illegally, I can't do anything where people could see me. And so I can't lie. So you have to make it work somehow. And I went to Canada, and there was one officer who was really nasty. I mean, I think he was on blood pressure medication. Like, he was just red everywhere. I still remembered like it was yesterday. And he was just like, yeah, whatever, you can go home, you can book your flight. I'm like, oh, dang it. But I knew something was different, something I had to do here. And then wouldn't you know, it was like an angel coming right in. Another officer came in and he said, hey, hold on. I will take a look. I will take a look at what the situation is, what it entails, why she's here, what she is intending to do. And he really asked me some really good questions where I did not have to lie, where I could really honestly answer those. And he looked at me and he said, I feel like you have something to finish. Wow. You need to go back. And I looked at him and I'm like, why would you say that? He's like, I trust you, and I trust that if you can't figure things out, that you will legally leave the country and go back to Germany. And I promised him, and he said, I count on it. And so I was able to come back. And then a few months later, I got married to my now husband. We've been married for almost 11 years now. And
Yay.
Within that, even there's still a lot immigration work. Like you can't just stay here. You don't just get social benefits to survive. All of that, what most people talk about, I'm like, I don't get it. I don't even have a credit score. Mostly because I don't believe in credit cards for that matter. We have, of course, stuff that we have together as a couple. But personally, it's just a totally different starting point when you come into this country. Like you can't just go to university. University is 3 times as more expensive. Like I had to pay for my master's somewhere between 60,000 and 100,000. I couldn't do it. And I said, I'm not going to get my master's degree if I have to pay that much, which I didn't have. So there's a lot of things that as an immigrant you have to work through. You have to go back every couple of years if you don't get your citizenship. And I still don't have my citizenship because I would like to keep my dual citizenship because my son has it. But Germany is kind of making it difficult at this point for me. So I'm still German citizen after 12 years. So it's an interesting perspective. So when I talk about unity and when I talk about my work as a sociologist, I just observe. It's almost like I'm able to fly above and I can see what things are moving without getting into the narrative, getting sucked into the narrative. So people always like, well, you have to pick a side. I'm like, no, I don't have to. If you judge what I say, depending on the side that you think you belong to, then that is your interpretation, your assumption that you make about me. And that's your problem. It's not mine if you choose though. But you only do that so that it serves your narrative in what you think is right and what you think is wrong. So I leave that responsibility to you and just come from a place of understanding and love. And it may not be always well received because people are like, well, how dare you? Like, this is your white privilege speaking, or this is, you're a racist. Like whatever stories come up, I'm like, I am neither. I don't see myself as my skin color, since I personally have this really phenomenal gift of synesthesia. So I see everything in color. So people may show up in blue and green and red, and that shifts according to their emotional state. So it's almost like I can see through them to some degree, at least, on the outside. But I choose, and that is a choice. I choose to relate to other people from a soul perspective. And from that place, we are all one with source, meaning we're all from the same source. We're all connected to the same God, whatever people want to call it. It's a source. It's the source of love. God is love. And that's what I choose to see people from. And when I don't, I know I have something that I need to reflect on myself in terms of my programming, the things that I have been taught, the things that I choose to believe, the things that I constantly see and what influence me. And that is on me to make that reflection for myself so that I can acknowledge the person in front of me and whatever they're experiencing without getting sucked into their narrative or supporting their victim mentality as well. Well, but at the same time, you get to cheer people on. It's like those different sides. Like you're able to step away and you just observe. And that's a very, very powerful place to communicate from.
Yeah, and so I want to get into that a little more deeply, because that's one of the things I think that you bring out is that you're looking from above and you're not drawn into the narrative. That is huge in our country right now, because the prevailing narratives create these binary forces that battle each other continually. What is the tactic? How do you stay above that and still be relevant? Because that's the key. Because, as I talk about, we need to get rid of the idea of race. Yeah, that's a crazy idea. But how do you become relevant when you have people who are intent on staying within the narrative of no, you did this to me because of my skin color. No, you're this way because of your skin color. You have white privilege. You have this, you have that. How do you do that? Because that's the magic of the mighty Hundt. So how do you do that?
You're not taking things personally. I go by the 4 agreements in my life, and there's the book, The 4 Agreements. What's his name? It's he. Oh my gosh, I don't want to butcher his name, so just look up The 4 Agreements.
The 4 agreements.
Where I really have learned over the years, over the last, especially 15 years in particular, that what people say to me, I can choose to not take personally. So I have this narrative, not this narrative, but this understanding that when you say something to me, I can objectively reflect on that if this is true, if there's something that I have to understand for myself, that maybe I reacted from a place of, ego and was tired and overreacted, whatever that is, but I can take responsibility for that. Self-responsibility for each and everyone's experience of life is what has been or is lacking with so many people. And for me to be and stay above that, I have to meditate a lot, and I have to just be in this very place of peace, internal peace a lot, to not have this, whatever people say or however people react to me, have this take personally, or that I start making assumptions. Because in the end, when people lash out, or when people communicate about, oh, you're white privilege, or you're racist, or whatever the narrative is, it is based on trauma. It is based on trauma that has been inflicted and constantly confirmed and approved and, deepened within ourselves, that is directing your response to me. If you were to actually take a look at what is driving me, what story is driving me, is it the I need revenge, you treating me poorly, or it is our fault, like you're responding from shame and guilt? And then there is trauma right there. Like, we need to understand from what perspective we are coming when we react and respond, so that we can shift our internal understanding of who we are. And that's a very, very powerful place to be in. It's not happening overnight. It takes a lot of practice, because a lot of things we take personally. It's simply as that. Even when we talk about finding our purpose and our calling, we're so used to fighting for something, for or against something. It's either for or against. There's never in between, right? It's that dualism. And within dualism, you can never find peace. Within dualism, you will never find peace. If you always think in either or, good or bad, up and down, you will never find peace, because you will always compare who you are, what you have accomplished, etc., to everyone else around you. And you will always draw the shorter line, because you feel you have to be right in your own narrative, that you are the victim.
That's really good stuff. And so if you put those points out that you just made, and if you did that if you made that the new narrative, how would that be accepted in our society today? And when you put those things out, and we're going to take a break, and we're going to talk about the film specifically, because we're going to talk about how that is received among the general population, because I think it echoes all the points that you were just making about how we are to exist in this society today. And I want to hear some feedback on when you've had both positive and negative reviews on that, to see how it's being received. So we'll talk about that when we come back after the break, right after this. Isabel Hundt is here, y'all.
When people stop talking to each other, society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
And we're back with the mighty Hundt, Isabel Hundt, filmmaker and sociologist. And she's got this awesome video out, The Power of Connection. And let's cut to that, Isabel. Let's talk about the film. Let's talk about what drove you to make that. I understand you had the dream. What drove you really to make that? And what did you hope to achieve with the creation of The Power of Connection?
Mm-hmm. Well, I personally worked in this field for the last 10 years and I got tired. I was like, I don't want to work with individual clients as much anymore. It's just always running against the stream. And in entrepreneurship, you do realize, and that's again another topic, when you talk about a very, edgy topic,
yes,
then you as a woman are usually like, what I have realized is that there's a guy sitting next to me saying the same thing that I do, and he gets all the applause, and they're like, oh, no, we need to think about this. And I'm like, you just said the same thing. What are you talking about? So I got really tired of it. Like, I'm like, I don't like to have to work extra hard to be accepted in the speaking world. And I'm not saying that from a victim perspective. It was just something that I got to that point simply. And I had to take responsibility. And I was like, okay, what do I want to see differently? What do I want to do? Where am I not speaking up to get the stage that this voice, this message deserves? And it's not about me, it's about the message. And so I was venting to my husband that night. I'm like, I'm done with entrepreneurship. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't even know. I'm creating so much content. Nobody is responding. I'm not good at marketing. I'm really not that great. So anyone who is out there who really is great at marketing, let me know. But it's just not something I want to focus on because it's not where my creativity comes from. And so he's like, well, why don't you just use a different medium? Like, what are you talking about? I don't want to do a podcast. It just doesn't feel right to me. He's like, no, but how about a film? You have done so much work that you could put that into a film. I'm like, well, I'm not really a filmmaker. I don't know. So I went to bed with that thought, and I had watched Kyle C's his little video about a documentary about money, which was awesome. And he said this one thing, like, just do something little that you don't feel you need something back for, and you will see it will thrive. Something to that degree. Now, I'm not directly quoting him. So I went to bed, and the next morning I meditated like I always do every morning after I get up. And I saw this entire film going by, like how I want this to look like, the words. And it was work that I have done over the last 10 years that was just put together suddenly in one whole picture. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do with this? This is really awesome. So I started to write it out, and I just put it out there on social media. And I said, I have this really cool idea for a film, but I don't know. I don't have really a budget to create a film. I don't know where to reach out to or who to reach out to. And suddenly within 2 weeks, I had people that volunteered to work on it, from the wonderful Emily, who wrote the script with me and just made sure that I can stay within an hour because I love to be long. I always take 2 sentences where one short one would be enough. And Tony Williams, incredible, incredible videographer. He said, I just wanted a passion project, not just my daily work. And I wanted to do this. And other people jumped on board, and it just kind of evolved from there. And then I magically met our editor, Erin Williams. She is truly incredible. And her being still very young and also of color, she gave me a different perspective in how to edit it and how to shift some of the things that came from my perspective that she was able to see from her perspective and from her experience. And it was just an incredible collaboration with her just to brainstorm this idea. So for me, it was very, very important. The content itself is not new. I mean, for thousands and thousands of years, people talked about it. Even Jesus did. So it's nothing like that is, oh my gosh, nobody knew about that. But what really came to me was that I wanted it to be tangible. We learn in pictures. And most speakers talk about emotional intelligence and meta and quantum physics in a way that people are like, oh, this sounds awesome. They're motivated for 2 or 3 days. And then I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. And I wanted something in particular for the younger audience because they seem to get it when I talk to them in person. They're like, oh my gosh, finally someone understands how I feel and how I see the world. And it just doesn't make sense. I don't understand what the older crowd is talking about when they talk about all those issues and problems that they see, especially related to race, to people who are different than us, and not even by skin color, but even by demographic, gender. Those kind of discussions, they are much more inclusive than most older generations are. So they don't even know what's going on there. I'm like, I don't understand it. My friends are all different colors and all different genders. I don't even care. So I wanted to create something that is tangible, that really helps us in pictures as a story, like the real, really good storyline in what's actually going on inside of us that keeps us from truly connecting with each other, like all the biases that show up, all the prejudice, the programming, the beliefs, the stories, the social narrative that we are being told. Because let me tell you, people who are divided are easy to be controlled and manipulated. So whatever is in favor of our own narrative, we believe. We don't look at, oh, maybe, there's some truth, or maybe I need to take a look on either side. It's not just one side needs to take responsibility and change, and we all. And I think it has to, for one, to do with the predictability that we as human race respond to. Whoever creates the narratives, whoever has the power to create a construct, to create a game. Politics is a game. Whoever is able to create the game is the one who plays. And the figurines that they're playing with on their little chess game are way too predictable. If we were to sit more in silence and do the internal work, they wouldn't know how to direct the next step that they already predict that humankind or society will come forward with, that they gain more power and more money and whatever else there is. If we were to be more in silence, more in sitting in stillness, and just being present, we would be much more unpredictable, but we would be much more powerful. And those who run the narrative wouldn't be able to control as much.
See, and when you talk about that narrative, my question is, we know the narrative that's out there, and we kind of have to battle that narrative now. And that narrative was produced, as you say, because of trauma, and so much of it, we create the narrative based on the trauma. Does that work in reverse? Could there be such a thing as all positive narrative? I mean, could we create a narrative based on good rather than, because when I hear you talk about epigenetics and those things that come from the trauma that we've endured, does that work in the positive as well as in the negative? Because a lot of people have had negative happen, and then they therefore create an atmosphere and an environment based on the trauma that they've encountered. Can that happen the other way around? Like, if my life has been great, I've had great relationships, integrated environment, diversity of people, great interactions, can I create a positive narrative that has that same effect?
Yes. Pretty much when you start to take responsibility for yourself and how you experience the world and work through some of that trauma, you are breaking the cycle. You're breaking the cycle of epigenetic.
And is that what connection does? Does connection do that for me? When I,
yes.
I mean, but it's almost like I have to be well in order to connect, or either I can connect and become well. How does that work? Which one comes first?
I think that's like the chicken or the egg.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question.
Because connection kind of builds on itself, I guess. You know, if you do connect and you know the power of connection, then you will continue to build that way, and you'll get more and more and more. And I hate to say this and cut into this whole thing, because that's what I think is the story of my life. So I can't relate to people who feel like those people did this to me and I can't do anything. This has happened and they are stopping me and I'm not allowed to do this. They treat my people this way and that way, and I'm going, I can't relate to that. And I think it's because I've had that other thing happen in my life where I had those connections early, and those connections began to build, and I realized the benefit of all those connections in my life, and I continue to make those, and I've got an expansive network of just connections and great people. And so I have a hard time understanding people who think otherwise. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm the opposite. That's why I love when I watch The Power of Connection. I go, it's about that connection, and it spurs you on.
Well, I think the biggest question or the biggest reflection people have to make is, how am I connecting with myself first? You cannot connect with other people in a very powerful way if you don't know who you actually are and what's going on within yourself. Like, if you can't stand for yourself and you say, my well-being, who I am, does not depend on anyone else but me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Within that mindset, if you take care of yourself, and again, that's like this whole chain that's coming up, like this ripple effect from food and chemicals, like all of that is actually a disruptor of connection within yourself. And again, that is that connection to source. That's where so many spiritual practices have come from. That's like indigenous people are just a beautiful, as an example to use. They're so connected within themselves, within nature. There's just so much spiritual connection that they understand that no matter what is happening to me, violence will never make the change or never create the transformation that we are here to bring about. We've seen it with Standing Rock. Not once did they raise weapons, but those who feared their spiritual power, they knew that, like, subconsciously just know there's something else going on. They showed up like armor with everything from weapons to their whole suit. And I'm like, what are you afraid of? There are people literally protesting with no weapons, and you're coming there and tear gas, and I don't know, like, what is your fear really about? And in those situations, you know exactly that this deep connection, this is who I am, and this is why I'm here for. And we all are here to understand the connection to true unconditional love. Mm-hmm. This is our purpose. This is our calling. And as soon as you step into that, you are starting to create a very powerful connection with yourself, and that is being reflected to the connections that you have with other people. We were talking about it, or you were asking earlier if I got any like negative feedback on the film. Now, maybe it hasn't gone as viral to actually see that. I don't know. So far, I haven't gotten any, but I have noticed that too. I mean, I've done close to 300 interviews over the last 5 years. And sure, there are some people that question the narrative or just say, oh, I'm not so sure about you, or you're just talking. But I have never received real negative feedback. And I think it's because it doesn't get to me. I think it's people like subconsciously, they're like, well, there's no reason to even do that because, well, she's not even getting it. It's like, there's this, I posted that the other day, there's this saying, if someone gives you a gift and you don't like it, to who does it belong? To the person who's going to gift it to you. The same happens with if people coming at you for whatever reason because they don't agree or whatever, leave it with them. it's more a burden to them than it is to me. I don't care what you think about me. I will still live my life in peace. So I think I don't even attract that.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no point.
Yeah, that's really good. Really good. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to do a rapid fire round. We got some of the quotes from the video. We want you to, and you're going to have to give us 30-second responses on some of these quotes. Great quotes in the video, by the way. And so we just want you to give us a little taste of the video so that our listeners and viewers can
30
understand.
Seconds,
so we'll be back after we take a break right after this.
Are you a small business owner concerned about the downturn in the economy? Top business leaders like Mattress Mac and Warren Buffett will tell you that now is the time to promote your business more than ever. People need your services. Your business needs an edge. Learn about special advertising packages for small businesses right here on Edge Radio. Find out more, give us a call at 281-744-0446. That's 281-744-0446. Edge, because truth still matters.
And we're back. We've got Isabel Hundt, and to maximize our time, we're going to go straight to our rapid fire round, where we're going to ask her some of the quotes about her amazing new documentary film, The Power of Connection. And so take these quotes as we give them to you, Isabel, and hit us quick, and we want to cover as many of these as we can. You talked about the idea of social prisons. What are the social prisons about?
Social prisons is everything that we accept as truth that has been given to us from other people, including your parents, including your teachers, including your politicians. Anyone that is on the outside of yourself is creating a social prison if we don't question the narrative.
Oh, okay. Great. What about this statement you make? We are taught to fear first rather than love first. Fear first rather than love first.
Yes, we're taught to fear before we love, because fear keeps us controlled. Fear, people in fear will always buy into what they believe will help them. Just like with COVID, there was a lot of fear mongering happening. So as a collective, we believe that if we act a certain way, this will save us. This will save us from our fear of death, which is really not the truth. So fear is a very great tool to divide. It's a very great tool to create history in a not so great way, and it's a great tool to sell.
Oh, here's a classic one. You said that we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yes. Well, that one is a very well-known quote, I would say, which is very, very powerful. If we understand ourselves as the soul that we are, connected to source, connected to God, then there is no attachment to to who we are as humans. We're not attached to life even. For me now, Dr. Zach Bush talks about it so beautifully. Oh my gosh, I just adore this guy, and my husband knows. But he describes the experience of death in such a beautiful, beautiful way that you almost life doesn't end with this physical body. There's so much more for us to experience outside of that. That's what we experience when we meditate. We're going beyond the space of the physical experience. And that is a really powerful place to be in. So having that knowledge and that understanding, we are not fearfully holding on to material things. We're not holding on to dear life with everything that, oh my gosh, this is mine, don't take it away from me. Like, we know that there's nothing they can take from us, not even our life.
Okay, I've got a question, and I'll have Richard do the one about religion. But before we get to that one, I want to ask you the one about where you say that ego attempts to preserve our individual identity and it blocks the divine. Is that not only individual, but also speaking of groups? Do we attempt to preserve our group identities rather than hearing who the divine has made us to be? How does that work?
Yes. The individual determines the culture. And so whatever our identity is, whatever we think our identity is, and in my case, when I moved to the US, it was being German. So everything that I thought Germans do differently, I thought was better. So of course I made fun of all Americans who told me that's not the case, until I really hit rock bottom. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I need to pay more attention to how I talk and how I alienate other people from my life. And so the individual determines the collective. Automatically, what we believe, we want to be confirmed in. So we're looking for like-minded people that then creates a culture, that then creates a community, creates a nation with the same beliefs, because we're all in this together and we all have the same experience, not realizing that we're actually just feeding off of each other and feeding our egos and our beliefs that help us to identify some kind of individuality, some kind of uniqueness about us that separates us from others, because only when we find ourselves to be unique in something, we can succeed.
Okay.
I wanted to first just encourage you and just tell you to keep going for it. This is powerful stuff. The power of connection is such a big thing, such a missing thing in our society today. As a pastor, this one that's jumping off at me, and I have a personal experience, I want to tell you that, and then I want you to respond to it. It's that religion pushes hierarchy, and I'm in a superior belief system to yours. My personal experience as a teenager, religion almost destroyed me. Organized religion almost destroyed me. Didn't want to have anything to do with church. And I heard a kid on a band bus, and he said, you know what? He was talking to his other friend. He wasn't talking to me. I was overhearing. It's amazing how God will allow you to overhear something. And he said, you know, Guy, it's not about religion. It's about relationship. And that pushed me, that little seed pushed me to really dig into more of really who Jesus was about, because he wasn't about religion. He was about relationship.
Connection.
The scribes and Pharisees actually hired an attorney, and they said, okay, we're going to trip him up. What's the greatest commandment in the law? And Jesus said, well, this is so simple. You know, hundreds of commands. He said, oh, this is so simple. The first, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And he said in the second, which is almost as important, love your neighbor as yourself. And if you can do these two things, you're going to fulfill everything that pertains to the law and everything that pertains to the prophets. So
Yes.
This religious do's and don'ts really is a block towards connection. And I just wanted to get you to respond to that.
I fully agree, and that's why I no longer identify with any particular religion. I grew up Lutheran, so I hear you in organized, institutionalized religion. And, you know, I think my grandma still thinks I'm part of a cult because she doesn't quite understand what I'm doing, or, you know, it just works differently. I truly believe, and like you said, Jesus never talked about religion, but religion is politicized spirituality. Once we turned into specific religion, we were able to divide. Well, we're Christians, we're Jews, we are Hindus. And after having studied a lot of the different religions, honestly, I almost identify more with Buddhism as a whole, because they're so focused on love and connection and the Christ consciousness. Richard Rohr talks about it a lot, the Christ within, the understanding that we are one because we are one with God, with source, with creator, with universe, whatever people want to call it. It doesn't matter. We're all understanding that everything is vibration, everything is a frequency, it's energy. So we are, and so is God, but God is this unconditional love, that beautiful creation, or that energy that creates so beautiful everything from a place of love. And if we can get back to that, we will no longer divide, even in religion. As soon as we again create this dualism, even within religion, we say, oh well, you are not saved yet because you didn't say that Jesus is your Lord and Savior. So definitely, like, I'm better, like I will. It's like Jehovah Witnesses, and then the Christians go, they're a sect. I'm like, well, wait a second, you're saying the same thing. So what's the difference, It's just that the different kind of wordings. And I think we have to really humble ourselves a little bit within all religions to understand the only truth that truly exists is love, nothing else. And if you can reflect with that on everyday activities, like if what I'm going to say is coming from a place of love, genuine love, even if it's still part of my own programming, or the way I am responding to them, am I choosing to come from a place of love? That all it takes to change the narrative to a mindset of unity and community.
That's good.
That's amazing. Hey, we're out of time for today, but I tell you what, we could go for another hour, but Oscar Hines, who's got the Natural Nation coming up next, would kick me off the set here and say we got our show to do. But really good stuff. And I want to tell you about the power of connection after I watched the video. It really does. It will bring so many things home to people who I think who have lived in a life of connection. And maybe, of course, it will also reach those who have not lived a life of connection. But you made one of the points that your connection with others can be as real as your connection with your mother and father. Everybody understands that. Everybody understands that deep relationship. I don't think most people believe that in their lifetimes, they could ever have relationships that deep with people outside of their bloodline, outside of their quote unquote race or anything else. And that's the thing that's most amazing for people to find out. And that's what I think the power of connection does. And so we've got to get this not only to people who understand it, but to the myriad of people in our country who don't understand the power of connection. So outstanding work. I applaud you, and you'll continue to, I'm sure, waking more awards for your amazing video. And it's a lot of work that we've got to do in this country so that people can move beyond where we are to understanding what connection can really do for us as a country. So any closing remarks from Richard or from you? And
just so good to meet you. So glad we had this conversation today.
Yes, me too. I love it. And yes, Garland, we could talk for hours.
All right.
You need to come to Indianapolis again.
And so, hey, we'll make sure you stay tuned in next time on Talk About Unity, because I'll see when the next time is we can have the mighty Hundt back, because there's so much more we didn't cover. But whatever you do, go and grab the power of connection. Look for it. Go to our website. Go to Edge Radio, because we'll have this video there and we'll put a link to it there. And we're going to promote the power of connection, because that's what we need in our country. And the only way we'll be able to walk about unity is to talk about it. And we did that today with the power of connection and the mighty Isabel Hundt.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're out.